What's going on, Dodgers Nation? Doug McCain here. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMAC_LA. We've got everything you need to know about Major League Baseball's new rules. I talked to some of the players and the coaches and the people within the Dodgers organization about these rules, and we're going to dive into that in just a second. But quick reminder for all things Dodger baseball, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you really want to support the channel, smash that like button. And as always, I want your takes down below in the comments section. Today's Dodgers Nation question of the day: do you like the new rules in Major League Baseball? What do you like? What do you not like? Do you think the game needed to make these changes? Let me know down below. And for all latest Dodgers news, head over to DodgersNation.com. This year, Major League Baseball has made the most radical rule changes since the advent of the designated hitter in the 70s. The new rules will impact every aspect of the game, from pitching, hitting, base running to fielding. And we're going to start with the new rules on the shift. Last year, Major League teams positioned their infielders in an unbalanced shift where more than two infielders were on one side of second base on 33.6% of all plate appearances. That number was even higher against left-handed hitters, where teams shifted 55% of the time. This resulted in lefties being thrown out on ground balls to the second baseman playing in shallow right field. Now, why is this a problem for Major League Baseball? Well, over the last few years, the number of singles hit per game has reached an all-time low, and last year's 243 league batting average was the lowest it's been since 1968. MLB wants more action, and a way to achieve that is by having more balls put in play and more ground balls turn into hits. Also, with infielders having to display more athleticism, we're hopefully going to see more highlight plays from fielders. Now, what is the new rule? Well, at the start of each pitch, teams must have at least two infielders on either side of second base, with all four positioned on the infield dirt. Also, infielders may not switch positions unless there is a substitute. Now, can a left fielder play the rover position against a left-handed hitter and thus essentially recreating the shift? Well, yes, there are no limitations on outfield positioning, but with no player covering left field, an opposite field base hit of any kind could lead to an easy triple. With two outs, bases empty, severe pull hitter at the plate, there is a chance you could see it, but it's unlikely. So yes, that means we're not going to see Manny Machado camped out in right field, and we're not going to see any more extreme shifts like we saw the Dodgers use against the Padres. Now, which player stands to benefit from the new shift rules the most? Well, it's none other than former Dodger Corey Seager. Siegs was shifted against 93% of the time last season, and he pulled 107 balls into the shift. That was the most by any player. Charlie Blackmon was a distant second with 86. And on those balls in play, Corey Seager had a batting average of just 56. He also hit 156 on hard hit grounders. That was a career low. In 2022, Seager slashed 245, 317, 455 with a 772 OPS. And based on predictive stats in 2022, if there was no shift, he would have slashed 278, 347, 489 with an 836 OPS. Now, of all the rule changes, this is going to be the one that's going to impact the Dodgers the most, because from 2015 to 2022, no team shifted more than the Dodgers, and the more that the Dodgers shift, the better their defense was. It allowed their defense to be more efficient. It allowed them to increase their run prevention. And if you look at the Dodgers' BABIP before their opponents, it was 272 in that span. That was the lowest in all of Major League Baseball. For comparison, the league average was 296. Now, you also have to give a lot of credit to the Dodgers pitching in this span, and if you look at the numbers when it comes to inducing soft contact, LA was right at the top, but their positioning gave them a major advantage. And if you look at their opponent's batting average, it sat at 224. Their expected batting average was at 223. That was the lowest in all of Major League Baseball. So I think that this is something that is not being talked about enough, and we'll see how the Dodgers will adjust. The good thing is they have nice pitching depth, but it's going to be more of a level playing field, and that was definitely an advantage that they had for years. So look for the left-handed hitters to benefit the most. Also look for more more balls in play, more action around the diamond, and also more athletic plays from defensive players. It should be exciting. But I asked some of the current Dodgers about their thoughts on the new shift rules, and here's what they had to say.
Freddy, you're one of the best hitters in the game, and I just want to ask you about the restricted shift. If you think that's good for the game, that'll change your approach at all?
I think a lot of people ask me about the offensive side of that I'm looking at the defensive side, really, because now the second baseman's got to cover more ground. Do you deploy different people at second base that wouldn't be at second base? So it's more of, I'm trying to think of defensively. For 4 or 5 years, I'm used to a left-handed hitter up, and four steps to my right, I just let it go because Gavin or anybody's right behind me. So now I gotta remember to be more aggressive and go after those balls because they're not going to be there anymore. So I really think I'm looking at the defensive side first, and then I can talk to you guys in May or June about the offensive side. But as an offensive player, you've been taught to hit a ball up the middle your whole life, hit a line drive in the middle, and you've been out for 5 years. That might be nice to get a hit, when you hit a ball up the middle.
I want to talk to you about your time at AA, because you started the season in AA, and you were there when they implemented the restricted shift rule. And I want to know, one, what were your initial impressions of it? And also, how do you think it's going to impact you at the plate? And what should fans expect from it?
Okay, so initial reaction was I honestly didn't notice it that much compared to the big shifts, or compared to not having the shift at all. I didn't notice it as much just because in the minor league system, there's a little bit less shifting going on because the scouting reports are just a little bit less thorough in general. Obviously, towards the end of the season, a team would get to know me and they would move over to the other side or something like that. But yeah, I would say that there's going to be some more hits for sure, and I think there's going to be a lot of really cool defensive plays that come of it because guys are going to have to range out a lot more. But the shortstop was almost right behind second base, which is where they would normally play me anyways. He was just on the other side. But the biggest difference for me was that the second baseman had to be on the dirt. So if I smoke a ball in the hole, there's a good shot it's getting through now, unless they make a really good play.
Also, I want to get your thoughts on some of the new rules, the restriction on the shift, and how that might impact the game. And are you a fan of it?
I'm not a fan of them changing it all the time, but if they want to do that, that's fine. I think it's going to help lefties, obviously, not having a brick wall on the right side of the field. So if they want to do that, and I'd like just some stability, maybe,
So it's nice to see Major League Baseball getting its shift together, and we'll see how much it impacts the game. And then the next big rule change is the pitch clock. Now, for many years, what separated baseball from other sports is that there was no clock. It was a timeless sport. But times have changed in Major League Baseball. Last year, the average time for an MLB game was 3 hours and 6 minutes. That was slightly down from 3 hours and 11 minutes in 2021, which was an all-time high. MLB is attempting to shorten the game by limiting the number of times pitchers and batters are allowed to stop play. So what is the new rule? Well, now there will be a 30-second timer between batters and a time limit between pitches. Once the pitcher receives the ball from the catcher or umpire, pitchers are required to begin their motion within 15 seconds with the bases empty or within 20 seconds with runners on base. If they're in violation, they are charged with an automatic ball. Now, according to a memo that teams received from Major League Baseball, there were 2.03 violations per game in the first week of spring training, and now that number is down to 1.03 violations per game. So just like we saw at the minor league level when they implemented the pitch clock, pitchers are adjusting well, and it's only a matter of time until this becomes second nature. Now, on the hitter's side, they must be in the batter's box and ready for the pitch by the time the clock reaches 8 seconds. If they don't, they'll be charged with an automatic strike. A batter is allowed to call time once per plate appearance. Now, we've seen so far this spring, Chris Taylor get some violations. We saw earlier in the spring, the Braves lost to the Red Sox due to a pitch clock violation. So hitters are going to have to adjust as well. Now, as far as its impact on the time of game, well, last year's spring training games averaged 3 hours and 1 minute, and this year they've averaged 2 hours and 36 minutes. So it has a accomplished its intended purpose. We are getting shorter games. But I asked some of the current Dodgers pitchers about the new pitch clock, and here's what they told me.
So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the new pitch clock rule?
It's going to be an adjustment. I think in spring training, I hope that they implement it then, so we can kind of get familiar with it. But other than that, we'll just have to roll with it.
We're still going to get those patented Vesia struts right after the big strikeouts?
Yeah, I hope that I can at least do something like that, or I think the biggest concern is being able to do my routine, right? Go behind the mound, rub the ball up, and then kind of reset myself and go. So if it has to be a little bit quicker, that's okay. I'm not worried about it.
Going to be an adjustment. I think we're going to have spring training as that somewhat of an adjustment period to get acclimated and learn about it and see how different pitchers may need to adjust. I think it's going to impact the game heavily for the first, definitely spring training, maybe a couple weeks of the season. But I think guys will get adjusted, guys will get used to it, and we'll be just fine.
And then there's the new rules that encourage stolen bases. Now, with home runs increasing in recent years, stolen base attempts have declined significantly. Teams are playing for the slug, and they're not playing for singles and using small ball. Now, MLB has determined that fans want to see more stolen bases, and they also want the anticipation of steals, because even if they don't steal a base, the anticipation is part of the excitement. Now, what did Major League Baseball do? Well, now we have bigger bases, and with larger bases, runners have less ground to cover to pull off steals, and this will hopefully work to increase the number of successful steals. Another added benefit of the larger bases is that it will reduce the number of injuries that result in collisions between fielders and runners. Now, how much bigger are the bases? Well, the new bases are up to 18 inches from 15 inches. That cuts down the distance from first to second and third base by 4.5 inches. Home plate stays the same size, and the distance from home to first is 3 inches shorter. Also, pitchers are limited to a maximum number of pickoff attempts per plate appearance. If a pitcher makes a third pickoff attempt and doesn't get the runner out, it goes as an automatic ball, and all runners advance one base. So as far as action go and making the game more exciting, I think that having more stolen bases is going to help, but as far as how much it'll impact winning, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. Now, the number of stolen bases in Major League Baseball have been declining for years. This is due mainly to teams relying more on slugging to generate runs, using analytics and defensive shifts. So teams aren't as aggressive on the base paths. Now, a few years ago for the 2021 regular season, there were 2,213 stolen bases. That was the fewest in a full season since 1981. For context, 10 years before that in 2011, there were over 1,000 more stolen bases, with teams swiping 3,279 bags that year. Now, Total Baseball, a baseball encyclopedia compiled in 1989 by John Tom and Peter Palmer, developed the stolen base runs SBR statistic to quantify stolen bases. And the research determined that each successful stolen base was found to only add approximately 0.3 runs per game. Now, I will say the numbers also prove that it's never been easier to steal bases, with over 70% of runners making it to second base safely. So we'll see if teams will take advantage, and I'll admit, I miss the art of this steal. And if you look at last season, John Birdie led all of Major League Baseball with 41 stolen bases. Compare that to Ricky Henderson in 1982, who set the MLB record with 130 stolen bases. So I don't think you're going to see another Ricky Henderson-like season, but hopefully you'll see base runners stealing more bases at a higher clip. Now, as far as how it will impact the Dodgers, well, last season, LA was 9th in all of Major League Baseball with 98 stolen bases, but they also lost Trey Turner, who signed with the Phillies. Gavin Lux was in the 94th percentile in sprint speed. They lost him for the year due to an ACL injury. They do have some fast guys, of course. Mookie Betts, the way he can get jumps, he's in the leadoff spot. You got Chris Taylor, you have Miguel Vargas, so I do think they will take advantage when they're on the base pass and getting runners in scoring position, but I don't think it's going to impact the game that much as far as a wins and losses perspective. I think from an aesthetic perspective and making the game more exciting for the fans, I hope it does accomplish that. But I recently asked Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, who had one of the most memorable stolen bases of all time, about the new rules that encourage base stealing and here's what he told me.
Yeah, and Doc, you had one of the most iconic, memorable stolen bases of all time. I want to get your thoughts on these new rules that encourage base stealing, and how big is it for the game?
It's huge for the game. I think that, you know, as a manager, my job is to give ourselves the best chance to win a baseball game. What the rules have done is it's going to speed up the game, which is what the fans want. It also gives us an opportunity to have more of a dynamic player. So we're going to see more balls in play, more hits, because we can't shift. And then also the stolen base. There's a bigger base. Base are a little bit bigger. The throwing over is going to be minimized. And so hopefully bat to ball is going to increase. It's also more of a dynamic player. So for me, that was my game. So we have to still get players that can do that. I'm not going to have Freddie Freeman stealing bases just because we can steal more, but I like the way the game's going.
Yeah, and as an elite base stealer, do you think you have one more stolen base in you?
Absolutely not. No, I got to get a good jump, but the thing is, though, I can't get out of first gear anymore. That's the problem.
But let me know down below in the comment section. Do you think these new rules were essential for the growth of Major League Baseball? Do you like the changes? What do you like? What do you not like? How much do you think it'll impact the Dodgers? Let me know down below. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. For all latest Dodgers news all season long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you really want to support the channel, you want to see us post even more Dodgers content, smash that like button. And as always, think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.